Good day, my people, and welcome to this 6th day of September. It is day 249 in our journey through the Bible. Hello to everyone out there. My name's Hunter. I am your brother. I am a Bible reading coach, your Bible reading coach, as a matter of fact, and I meet with you every day to spend some time together in the pages of the Bible. We let this Bible of ours spend some time on us, and oh, how we need that, no doubt about that. People from all around the world are gathering here to listen together, to have our hearts warmed by the fires of God's light as it leads us to the one who is life itself. That's what these scriptures do. They point us to Jesus. And that is their gift to us. So we gather, and I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to be here. And today we're going to look into the book of 2 Kings 25, 2 Chronicles 36, Jeremiah 40 and 41, and we will finish in Revelation chapter 12. This is the word of the Lord. 2 Kings 25. So on January 15th, during the 9th year of Zedekiah's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon led his entire army against Jerusalem. They surrounded the city and built siege ramps against its walls. Jerusalem was kept under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah's reign. By July 18th, in the 11th year of Zedekiah's reign, the famine in the city had become very severe, and the last of the food was entirely gone. Then a section of the city wall was broken down. Since the city was surrounded by the Babylonians, the soldiers waited for nightfall and escaped through the gate between the two walls behind the king's garden. Then they headed toward the Jordan Valley. But the Babylonian troops chased the king and overtook him on the plains of Jericho, for his men had all deserted him and scattered. They captured the king and took him to the king of Babylon at Riblah, where they pronounced judgment upon Zedekiah. They made Zedekiah watch as they slaughtered his sons. Then they gorged out Zedekiah's eyes, bound him in bronze chains, and led him away to Babylon. On August 14th of that year, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar's reign, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard and an official of the Babylonian king, arrived in Jerusalem. He burned down the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem. He destroyed all the important buildings in the city. Then he supervised the entire Babylonian army as they tore down the walls of Jerusalem on every side. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took as exiles the rest of the people who remained in the city, the defectors who had declared their allegiance to the king of Babylon, and the rest of the population. But the captain of the guard allowed some of the poorest people to stay behind to care for the vineyards and fields. The Babylonians broke up the bronze pillars in front of the Lord's temple, the bronze water carts, and the great bronze basin called the sea, and they carried all the bronze away to Babylon. They also took all the ash buckets, shovels, lamps, snuffers, ladles, and all the bronze articles used for making sacrifices at the temple. The captain of the guard also took the incense burners and basins and all the other articles made of pure gold and silver. The weight of the bronze from the two pillars, the sea, and the water carts was too great to be measured. These things had been made for the Lord's temple in the days of Solomon. Each of the pillars was 27 feet tall. The bronze capital on top of each pillar was 7.5 feet high and was decorated with a network of bronze pomegranates all the way around. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took with him as prisoners Sariah the high priest, Zephaniah the priest of the second rank, and the 3 chief gatekeepers. And from among the people still hiding in the city, he took an officer who had been in charge of the Judean army, 5 of the king's personal advisors, the army commander's chief secretary, who was in charge of recruitment, and 60 other citizens. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took them all to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and there at Riblah in the land of Hamath, the king of Babylon had them all put to death. So the people of Judah were sent into exile from their land. Then King Nebuchadnezzar appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, and grandson of Shaphan, as governor over the people he had left in Judah. When all the army commanders and their men learned that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah as governor, they went to see him at Mizpah. This included Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, Johanan son of Kareah, Sarai son of Tenahumeth, the Netophathite, Jezaniah son of the Maacathite, and all their men. Gedaliah vowed to them that the Babylonian officials meant them no harm. Don't be afraid of them. Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and all will go well for you, he promised. But in mid-autumn of that year, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah and grandson of Elishama, who was a member of the royal family, went to Mizpah with 10 men and killed Gedaliah. He also killed all the Judean and Babylonians who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people of Judah, from the least to the greatest, as well as the army commanders, fled in panic to Egypt, for they were afraid of what the Babylonians would do to them. In the 37th year of the exile of King Jehoiachin of Judah, Evil-Merodach ascended to the Babylonian throne. He was kind to Jehoiachin and released him from prison on April the 2nd of that year. He spoke kindly to Jehoiachin and gave him a higher place than all the other exiled kings in Babylon. He supplied Jehoiachin with new clothes to replace his prison garb and allowed him to dine in the king's presence for the rest of his life. So the king gave him a regular food allowance as long as he lived. 2 Chronicles 36. Then the people of the land took Josiah son of Jehoahaz and made him the next king in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. Then he was deposed by the king of Egypt, who demanded that Judah pay 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold as tribute. The king of Egypt then installed Eliakim, the brother of Jehoahaz, as the next king of Judah and Jerusalem, and he changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. Then Necho took Jehoahaz to Egypt as a prisoner. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Then King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and captured it, and he bound Jehoiakim in prison chains and led him away to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also took some of the treasures from the temple of the Lord, and he placed them in his palace in Babylon. The rest of the events in Jehoiakim's reign, including all the evil things he did and everything found against him, are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Then his son Jehoiachin became the next king. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months and 10 days. Jehoiachin did what was evil in the Lord's sight. In the spring of that year, Nebuchadnezzar took Jehoiachin to Babylon. Many treasures from the temple of the Lord were also taken to Babylon at that time, and Nebuchadnezzar installed Jehoiachin's uncle, Zedekiah, as the next king in Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 11 years. But Zedekiah did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and he refused to humble himself when the prophet Jeremiah spoke to him directly from the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, even though he had taken an oath of loyalty in God's name. Zedekiah was a hard and stubborn man, refusing to turn to the Lord, the God of Israel. Likewise, all the leaders of the priests and the people became more and more unfaithful. They followed all the pagan practices of the surrounding nations, desecrating the temple of the Lord that had been consecrated in Jerusalem. The Lord, the God of their ancestors, repeatedly sent his prophets to warn them, for he had compassion on his people and his temple. But the people mocked these messengers of God and despised their words. They scoffed at the prophets until the Lord's anger could no longer be restrained and nothing could be done. So the Lord brought the king of Babylon against them. The Babylonians killed Judah's young men, even after chasing them into the temple. They had no pity on the people, killing both young men and young women, the old and the infirm. God handed all of them over to Nebuchadnezzar. The king took home to Babylon all the articles, large and small, used in the temple of God, and the treasures from both the Lord's temple and from the palace of the king and his officials. Then his army burned the temple of God, tore down the walls of Jerusalem, and burned all the palaces and completely destroyed everything of value. The few who survived were taken as exiles to Babylon, and they became servants to the king and his sons until the kingdom of Persia came to power. So the message of the Lord spoken through Jeremiah was fulfilled. The land finally enjoyed its Sabbath rest, lying desolate until the 70 years was fulfilled, just as the prophet had said. In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, the Lord fulfilled the prophecy he had given through Jeremiah. he stirred the heart of Cyrus to put this proclamation in writing and to send it throughout his kingdom. This is what King Cyrus of Persia says: "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth. He has appointed me to build him a temple at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Any of you who are his people may go there for this task, and may the Lord your God be with you." Jeremiah 40. The Lord gave a message to Jeremiah after Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had released him at Ramah. He found Jeremiah in chains among all the other captives of Jerusalem and Judah who were being sent in exile to Babylon. The captain of the guard called for Jeremiah and said, "The Lord your God has brought this disaster on this land, just as he said he would. For these people have sinned against the Lord and disobeyed him. That is why this happened. But I am going to take off your chains and let you go. If you want to come with me to Babylon, you are welcome. I will see to it that you are well cared for. But if you don't want to come, you may stay here. The whole land is before you. Go wherever you like. If you decide to stay, then return to Gedaliah, son of Ahikam and grandson of Shaphan. He has been appointed governor of Judah by the king of Babylon. Stay there with the people he rules. But it's up to you. Go wherever you like." Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, gave Jeremiah some food and money and let him go. So Jeremiah returned to Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, at Mizpah, and he lived in Judah with the few who were still left in the land. The leaders of the Judean military groups in the countryside heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, as governor over the poor who were left behind in Judah, the men and women, the children who hadn't been exiled to Babylon. So they went to Gedaliah at Mizpah. This included Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, Johanan and Jonathan, son of Kareah, Sariah, son of Tenhumeth, the sons of Iphi, the Nephathite, Jezaniah, son of the Makathite, and all their men. Gedaliah vowed to them that the Babylonians meant them no harm. "Don't be afraid to serve them. Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and all will go well for you," he promised. "As for me, I will stay at Mizpah to represent you before the Babylonians who come to meet with us. Settle in the towns you have taken and live off the land. Harvest the grapes and summer fruits and olives and store them away." When the Judeans in Moab, Ammon, and Edom, and all the other nearby countries heard that the king of Babylon had left a few people in Judah, and that Gedaliah was the governor, they began to return to Judah from the places to which they had fled. They stopped at Mizpah to meet with Gedaliah, and then went into the Judean countryside to gather a great harvest of grapes and other crops. Soon after this, Johanan, son of Kareah, and the other military leaders came to Gedaliah at Mizpah. They said to him, "Did you know that Baalis, king of Ammon, sent Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, to assassinate you?" But Gedaliah refused to believe them. Later, Johanan had a private conference with Gedaliah and volunteered to kill Ishmael secretly. "Why should we let him come and murder you?" Johanan asked. "What will happen then to the Judeans who have returned? Why should the few of us who are still left be scattered and lost?" But Gedaliah said to Johanan, "I forbid you to do any such thing, for you are lying about Ishmael." Jeremiah 41. But in mid-autumn of that year, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah and grandson of Elishama, who was a member of the royal family and had been one of the king's high officials, went to Mizpah with 10 men to meet Gedaliah. While they were eating together, Ishmael and his 10 men suddenly jumped up, drew their swords, and killed Gedaliah, whom the king of Babylon had appointed governor. Ishmael also killed all the Judeans and Babylonian soldiers who were with Gedaliah at Mizpah. The next day, before anyone had heard about Gedaliah's murder, 80 men arrived from Shechem, Shiloh, and Samaria to worship at the temple of the Lord. They had shaved off their beards, torn their clothes, and cut themselves, and had brought along grain offerings and frankincense. Ishmael left Mizpah to meet with them, weeping as he went. When he reached them, he said, "Oh, come and see what has happened to Gedaliah." But as soon as they were inside the town, Ishmael and his men killed all but 10 of them and threw their bodies into a cistern. The other 10 talked Ishmael into letting them go by promising to bring him their stores of wheat, barley, olive oil, and honey that they had hidden away. The cistern where Ishmael dumped the bodies of the men he murdered was the large one dug by King Asa when he fortified Mizpah to protect himself against King Baasha of Israel. Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, filled it with corpses. Then Ishmael made captives of the king's daughters and the other people who had been left under Gedaliah's care at Mizpah by Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard. Taking them with him, he started back toward the land of Ammon. But when Johanan, son of Kareah, and the other military leaders heard about Ishmael's crimes, they took all their men and set out to stop him. They caught up with him at the large pool near Gibeon. The people Ishmael had captured shouted for joy when they saw Johanan and the other military leaders, and all the captives from Mizpah escaped and began to help Johanan. Meanwhile, Ishmael and 8 of his men escaped from Johanan into the land of Ammon. When Johanan, son of Kareah, and the other military leaders took all the people they had rescued in Gibeon, the soldiers, women, children, and the court officials whom Ishmael had captured after he killed Gedaliah, they took them all to the village of Keruth Kimham, near Bethlehem, where they prepared to leave for Egypt. They were afraid of what the Babylonians would do to them when they heard that Ishmael had killed Gedaliah, the governor appointed by the Babylonian king. Revelation 12. Then I witnessed in heaven an event of great significance. I saw a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon beneath her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant, and she cried out because of her labor pains and the agony of giving birth. Then I witnessed in heaven another significant event. I saw a large red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, with 7 crowns on his heads. His tail swept away 1/3 of the stars in the sky, and he threw them to the earth. He stood in front of the woman as she was about to give birth, ready to devour her baby as soon as it was born. She gave birth to a son, who was to rule all nations with an iron rod, and her child was snatched away from the dragon and was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where God had prepared a place to care for her for 1,260 days. Then there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels, and the dragon lost the battle, and he and his angels were forced out of heaven. This great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down to the earth with all his angels. Then I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens, "It is come at last, salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ, for the accuser of our brothers and sisters has been thrown down to earth. The one who accused them before our God day and night, and they have defeated him by the blood of the Lamb and by their testimony, and they did not love their lives so much that they were afraid to die. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who live in the heavens rejoice. But terror will come on the earth and the sea, for the devil has come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time." When the dragon realized that he had been thrown down to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But she was given 2 wings, like those of a great eagle, so she could fly to a place prepared for her in the wilderness. There she would be cared for and protected from the dragon for a time, times, and a half time. Then the dragon tried to drown the woman with a flood of water that flowed from his mouth, but the earth helped her by opening its mouth and swallowing the river that gushed out from the mouth of the dragon. And the dragon was angry at the woman and declared war against the rest of her children, all who keep God's commandments and maintain their testimony for Jesus. Then the dragon took his stand on the shore beside the sea. And now may our Lord give his blessing to the reading of his word. Amen. Their worst nightmare came true. Now they are living, if you want to call it that, among the ruins. It's a post-apocalyptic nightmare. Their worst fears have shown up on their front door. And yet here in the midst of this horrendous tragedy, Jeremiah, whose name means appointed, raised up by God, remains. Somehow Jeremiah is still there, taken out of the well where he had been left for dead. He resurfaces to find that all has been lost, just as he predicted. The temple, the palace, the walls, Jerusalem, all in ruins. And yet, Jeremiah, the one who was appointed, the one who was raised up by God, is still there. Like Jeremiah, God's called us to such a time as this. to be faithful witnesses and to remain as Jeremiah did, to be faithful, to be loving lights and proclaim God's kingdom, even among the ruins. We live in a world at war and where the walls have fallen down. Ours is not to charge into the fray and try to seize as much power as we can, like Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, did. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to pull down strongholds. The warfare of the world tears down others in order to be lifted up, but God's way is to lift up those who have been torn down. Let's join Jeremiah. Like Jeremiah, you have been appointed, raised up for God for a time like this, to faithfully, lovingly lift up those who are left among the ruins. That's the prayer that I have for my own soul. That's the prayer that I have for my family, for my wife and my daughters and my son. And that's the prayer that I have for you. May it be so.
Hello, Hunter.
Hey, Hunter.
Hello, Brother Hunter.
Hello, Hunter. This is Pauline Loney in Sherbrooke, Quebec.
Hi, Hunter. It's Robert Benning. I'm just from Edison, New Jersey. I'm just saying hello.
Hey, Hunter. This is Aaron Clifford calling. I'm calling from Beijing, China.
Hi, this is Marie from New Zealand.
Hi, Hunter. This is Francis Balla from Sharon, Massachusetts.
Hello, Hunter. This is Melody from Switzerland.
Hello, Hunter and Heather. This is Mallory from Warren, Michigan.
Hey, Hunter and Heather. It is David Nephew. How are you doing?
Why, thank you for all those amazing voicemails. It is such a cool thing to hear you on the DRB. When we hear your voices, we are reminded that we are not alone, that we are doing this together with brothers and sisters all over this amazing planet, that God is walking with each and every one of us down whatever particular road that we are on, and we are all on very specific journeys, aren't we? And God is present with all of us, and that is such good news. Well, hey, if you're listening to this and you would like to leave us a voicemail, you certainly can. Just head on over to the webpage and click on that voicemail link. And while you're there, how about signing up for our newsletter? We send it out about once a month, and we always try and give you something. We try and give these. Listen, folks, I've got boxes of You Are Loved stickers, and I'm trying to give them away. So sign up for that newsletter and send me an email telling me, hey, I want one of those stickers. And I'll do my best to hook you up. All that to say that we love to bless you in that newsletter. Not only do we want to let you know what's going on in our lives, but we try and encourage you. So check it out. Right after you leave that voicemail, you go ahead and sign up for the newsletter. How about that? Well, hey, that's enough homework for the day. But what do you say we show up again here tomorrow and let's do it again? Lord willing and the creek don't rise, your brother Hunter plans on being here. Until that time, let's go forward in God's joy. Let's let his joy be our strength. And let us always remember this, that you are loved. No doubt about it. Alrighty, I'll talk to you again tomorrow. You guys take care.